This is what Boonies Lake is famous for. We've had gale force winds, freezing cold nights, so to have the result that we've had, I'm over the moon. We're now coming into winter and I have ventured out today to Manor Farm Lakes. And behind me is the beautiful Boonies Lake, which is where we're going to be fishing. It really is a gorgeous lake. It's full of really dark bangers, gorgeous fish. It's a mature lake, around about 16 acres in size. You've got everything here. You've got islands, you've got overhangs, snags, great bits of open water. The water's really, really clear, and with that weed, it is full of naturals. And that lends us actually quite nicely into what we're going to be fishing today. So because of that, we have chosen to take a natural approach. And we're going to go into some detail today about sort of the natural things that we have in the range and how we go about applying that to fishing. Naturals really do come into their own at this time of year. As they're starting to deplete in the lake, if you can apply naturals to your fishing effectively, it can be a mega way of catching carp. Really, really effective. And you know, I think fish struggle to swim past that natural bait without going down to investigate. So without further ado, I'm going to go for a lap, hopefully try and find some fish. There's loads of little islands and channels and places where fish can be hiding. So yeah, gonna have a look around, see what we can find, and get the rods out from there. Had a really good walk around, done a couple of laps now, and one of the great things about this time of year is with it being cold and a bit miserable, there's not many people on the bank. So I think there's maybe 3 other anglers on, so I've pretty much got pick of the lake. As I say, had a really good look. We had a look in between all the islands and the channels, but I've come to this open water section and I've actually seen a couple. I'm stood in this swim now that gives me sort of really good access to where I've seen them. And it's a good point to make actually. At this time of year, with the sort of open water areas, they do see the sun for the majority of the day. So although the sun's low and not particularly warm, when it is out, that sort of central body tends to be the warmest area. So even if you hadn't seen fish, it's a really, really good place to start. But I have seen fish, so I'm getting quite excited now. Let's say the swim is secured. I feel like we're on them. That's always a good start. Confidence is high. So what I'm actually going to do now, go and get the kit out of the van and get fishing. Got all the gear into the swim now, and what I want to do now is get this leading rod out. But before I do that, one thing that I always do is check Google Maps. Google Maps really can be your best friend, especially on a new venue and especially on a venue that's as clear as this. It will tell me sort of what's going on in the lake, and it just means that I'm not just casting a leading rod straight away and disturbing the swim. I can do it way more measured. And looking at this, I can see already from where we are, there's a really nice sort of weedy, shallow bar that comes out from the left here. And although this picture may not be completely up to date, you know, I can tell that there's this sort of shallower, weedier area to the left. What I'm typically looking for at this time of year is sort of a nice silty area, as close to sort of where the naturals are going to be as possible, you know, and weed is a great holding spot for those naturals. I don't want to be on a really blatant spot. I want something that's subtle, that I can, you know, nicely present rigs on. And looking at this, it looks like it dips off into deeper water just after it, and that's sort of just to the left of my swim there. So I'm hoping sort of out in that middle area there's going to be some deeper water, and I'm hoping that I can find that spot that I want. So what I'm going to do is, now that I sort of know where I'm aiming for, I'm going to have a few flicks of the lead, try not to create too much disturbance, and yeah, see if I can find that sort of nice glassy silty spot. I've had a couple of flicks with the leading rod, just with a standard normal lead, and I've found what I think is a really, really nice spot. What I've just done now is I've clipped on a feature finding lead. I'm going to flick this back out onto the spot and just drag it back really slowly. This will pick up any detritus, any weed that's on the bottom, and it will give me a much better idea of what I'm fishing over. Just gives me that bit more detail. I can then adjust my rigs and adjust my approach based on what's on the bottom. The spot that I think I found is exactly what I'm looking for. Big weed bed out to the left, weed bed out to the right, a gravel bar behind this spot, and then it drops off in some really nice silt. So yeah, I'm going to get this out, see what's on the bottom, and go from there. Oh yeah, yeah, that's the one. That's so smooth. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's just what I wanted. Yeah, that's perfect. Small little tufts of silkweed, but you know, not a lot there at all. That is completely presentable. So the spot is exactly what I wanted to find, in the right area, next to that weed. Should be full of naturals. So yeah, time to get the rods out. Well, out in front of me, I have an array of different natural products. These are all different bits that are going into my mix, and I just thought I'd talk you through what I'm using and why I'm using it. So first up, we have got the frozen bloodworm. Now at this time of year, this goes into all of my mixes. It is a phenomenal natural product. Carp love bloodworm, and as I stated earlier, I'm obviously fishing a silty spot. Bloodworm love the silt, carp love the bloodworm, so it's a no-brainer for me really. Now, one thing to note, this is a fresh product. It needs to be stored in the freezer. One thing that you can use if you don't have any freezer space is the liquid bloodworm compound. Now, this is pretty much identical to the frozen bloodworm, but its shelf life still has millions of bloodworm in there. So yeah, a great alternative product if you don't have the freezer space. Next up, we have got the frozen water snails. Now these are a great little product. Again, they really come into their own in autumn, leading into winter. When we saw the weed that we were taking out with the pronged lead earlier, the weed was full of snails, teeming with them. So again, a great addition to the mix. Matches that natural element of what's in the lake, what the carp are naturally feeding on, and gives it a bit of a twist. You don't see as many people using these, so it's a great edge, especially on waters that get busy, such as here at Manor Farm Lakes. I'm also going to include some bloodworm pellet. This bulks out the mix, and what it does, it soaks up some of the liquids from that frozen bloodworm and just gives a whole other dimension to that mix as well. So really love including these. And last but not least, we have our worm and our maggot. Now again, these are great natural baits. I include the soil from the worms as well. Again, that takes in all of that bloodworm liquid. Carp absolutely love worm and maggot. You know, and mixed in with these other ingredients from the CC More Stable, it's irresistible. Just one final thing that I wanted to say. It's about the quantity of bait that you're making up and when you are preparing your bait. With it being live, natural product, it does have the tendency to go off. So you want to put out the right amount of mix to go over your rods at any one time. If you're catching more fish and having a good session, you can always prepare more. Now, with this rain starting, I need to get the spom out. So I'm not going to go mad on the bait at the moment. I say the water is cold. I'm probably going to start with about 10 to 12 spoms across all 3 of the rods on that spot. That's lots of small little food items, plenty for them to go at, and then I can add more. So if I get bites, more will go in. I've also got to be wary of nuisance fish, like, you know, there's tench, there's roach, rudd, there's eels in here. So I want to make sure there's enough to keep them at bay and still be something for the carp, but I don't want it to be too much. I don't want it to be too blatant. So yeah, I think 10 to 12 of these medium spods should just about do it. I just want to talk you through my rigs before I put them out there. Very, very simple rigs, and I've tailored them to the spot that I'm fishing. So it's a fairly soft spot on one side, moving across to slightly firmer on the other side, and it's all silt. On the left hand side of the spot there's a small amount of silkweed, so I'm going to fish 2 pop-up rigs on that left hand side and a wafter on the right hand side. Now it's the same rig that I'm using for both. It's a supple rig just so that it sits nicely over anything that's out there on the bottom. Just some drops of putty to pin that all down, and just a very simple blowback style setup. I've doubled over the end of the rig. That just gives it a little bit of an extra kick away from the lead, and a nice heavy 4-ounce lead just to really sink that hook. Now on 2 of the rigs I've got 12mm red northerns. The northerns speak for themselves, I'm not going to go into that too much, but the red colour is just to match what I'm putting out there. I've got the maggot and the bloodworm in the mix, and then I've topped the pop-up with the red maggots as well. They're just going to be wriggling around, hopefully be irresistible. On the wafter rig, I'm going to be using one of the bloodworm dumbbell wafters. Again, it's just a case of match the hatch. I'm going to top that up with some maggots as well, just on the top. So that will sit up just off the hook, wafting around with those maggots on top. Obviously with it being bloodworm, that's going to match all the bloodworm in the mix. So yeah, that's the basics of it. I'm going to get these out there and hopefully we'll have a fish. So, I didn't expect that so quickly. Had a couple of tench fairly rapidly after putting the rods out, and I thought this was going to be another one. It was a little drop back bite. It looks like we've got a carp on. Oh yeah, that's a banger. Look at the scales on that. Get in that net. Just, whoo, nearly missed it with the net then. Red northern hanging out its mouth, that's what we like to see. Oh, check that out. Well, how about that for a start? Absolutely blown away with this one. Mega scaly banger. The rods hadn't actually been out for that long. I just got them prepped for the evening. And typically for this time of year, as that light starts to fade, that's when the fish start to become active. Now, I'd had a couple of tench before this, and I was getting a little bit worried, but luckily the carp have come along and pushed them out, and this one has picked up the hook bait. Little red Northern Special 12mm pop-up, topped with some maggots, and proved too much for this one to resist. I mean, this fish has made my session already. So if we can get any more like this, I'd be, well, I'm already over the moon, but I'd be even happier. So I'll try not to be too greedy. So I'll slip this one back, get the rods back out, and who knows, hopefully have another one. Well, if that isn't inspiration to get out at this time of year, I don't know what is. I know it can be cold, damp, wet, windy, generally quite horrible conditions, but the rewards are there to be had. The banks are quiet, the fish are still feeding, and you know what? It's one of my favourite times of year. You know, you really have to work hard to get a bite, but it makes it so rewarding. There is nothing better at this time of year than hearing that alarm go and that fish hitting the spreader block. It is magical. Today has flown by, I think is the best way to describe it. At this time of year, there's such a little amount of light. I think is it sort of 7-ish, 8-ish hours. So before you know it, the nights are rolling in. But that's kind of okay, because most of the activity that you see at this time of year is in darkness. You know, the sun's been out throughout the day. You tend to see fish rising up in that water column, you know, trying to get the most of the heat. And then as that sun dips, the water's been warming throughout the day. It just seems to switch them on. So when it gets dark like this, I usually sit in my bivvy, have a brew, and I'm listening, you know, trying to understand where them fish are, making sure that I've made the right decisions throughout that day. And as I say, if you can keep warm, keep focused, and just enjoy it, the rewards, they're there. Get out there, make sure you do it. Well, it has been a pretty mental morning so far. So just at first light, rod was away, really good scrap, run me ragged, absolutely beat me up. Managed to get that one in the net, which is fantastic. We were just waiting for the light to get a little bit better so we could show you that one, and another rod was away. There's still fish showing on the spot. I've got 2 in the net, so I really want to get this rig tied back up, get the rod back out there, and then yeah, we can show you what we've got. Well, this was his second bite of the morning, smaller of the 2 fish, but a perfect little dark common. Just goes to show the effectiveness, you know, of naturals and when they get on it. So yeah, we'll slip this one back, get the bigger one out to show you. Bang on. Look at this ridiculous carp. I am buzzing with this one. And this is what Boonies Lake is famous for. Old, dark fish, mega. So just one fish this trip would have been perfect. You know, we've had gale force winds, freezing cold nights. So to have the result that we've had, I'm over the moon. Well, that is the end of the session down here on Boonies. What a mega session it's been as well. Typically, as that sun comes up this time of year, the bites tend to fizzle out anyway. We've not seen anything for a couple of hours now. But yeah, I mean, the results of this session just go to show you how effective naturals can be in cold water. Interestingly, it was the rig that was on the pop-up that done all of the fish. So yeah, that'd be something to think about if I was spending some more time down here. But yeah, buzzing with this session. We've had every weather condition imaginable. It's been freezing cold, but we've caught fish. And again, just goes to show, if you get out, if you make the effort this time of year, the results are there to be had. Naturals, in my eyes, are definitely the winner. So yeah, mega session, mega fish. I'm gonna get this rod and get the car loaded, be on my way.